need
So,
computers.
it's a 2-for-1 thing.
Right, these guys are speaking.
I'll pack it up. But I'm just
Boy, South Peru's looking great. It's pretty exciting. Everything looking good for tomorrow?
Yes.
Right.
Wow. That's quite a big whack of it over there, too. You got milled down there.
Perfect.
I'll try and make it down there. It's really exciting.
Yeah.
Peter, you're
Yeah,
one
right.
person down, so I'll be your second vote for quorum.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you?
Okay, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the City Infrastructure Committee. Roll call.
Councilor Insel?
Here.
Mayor Reed?
Here.
Okay. Other members present? Councilor Armstrong?
Here. Councilor Kelly?
Here.
Councilor Dowd?
Here.
Okay, at this point, we will welcome any comments from the public. Just remind you that there is a 5-minute limitation on comments. You will also, you can address the committee based on anything on our agenda, as well as any other issues or concerns you have in regard to city infrastructure. Seeing, hearing none, we'll continue. Report from department representatives and discussion with councilors. Mr. Brody? Mike? Cassette?
And an outline, maybe simplify a little bit. Work in progress, obviously Broad Street. Milling paving is complete. Main line striping is done. And
It's beautiful.
some night, and hopefully next week, we'll put some arrows and crosswalks back in.
And it looks like came in about $50,000 under budget.
We were fortunate. We had sold the wrap back to the plant, so there was a credit involved there. Had a couple borrowed trucks from town Peru to work with us, so it helps the
Wonderful.
Next is Main Road. We're off and running on that. The erosion control measures are in. They're working the main line, water. They did the tie-in on the Connecticut end. They got about 1,000 feet, actually over 1,000 feet of pipe as of today. I believe they filled tonight. They're going to set up for testing of that section. Chlorination, they'll let us set up the weekend. And then start with the service lines and continue on the main line pipe. Right now, it looks like we're on schedule. It's pretty methodical. We're had a good dry condition, unbelievably. We're kind of concerned about that, but we are finding a lot of hidden utilities. But we're working through it.
What is the timeline on that?
Middle of November is the final completion. And obviously, the next one we're working on now is South Peru. We finished the building up yesterday. Today was a cleanup day. Paving will start tomorrow. We did a couple different things. We added another 400 feet to it, the original scope.
Which
it would be the north end, brings us down to Flynn. We also added the approaches in Route 22. Opened that up a little bit because we like the look of it.
That was in bad shape.
We're going to probably use a little more material than we budgeted, but we're going to be under on labor. We had a real good day on the milling. We had 10 trucks from the combined from the town of Peru and town of Los Angeles to haul for us. So that helps the bottom line again. 2 of our own, and then we had 200 trucks. So that's what we got today.
Mike, I just go back a little bit when you mentioned we had some trucks from Los Angeles and from Peru. What do we have anything, or what do we know what we're giving them in return?
Yes, what we did on this one is we gave them the wrap. So that instead of sending the millings back over to the credit, if you work the numbers, the credit we get for the millings, it equals approximately the credit we would get for using the trucks for the day. And we owe some time from last year for prospects, so we'll send our trucks in and pay Pat Nordic leave in 2 weeks from now, so we'll send our 2 trucks out. We'll help them with millings and rebates. It's just, shared services, communicating between the highway superintendent and the kind of crew. Actually, he lined up the Alsatian trucks for us. We have a lot of millings. There's no reason for us to save that material. I don't know how many yards we have up currently, so we're better off to either sell them back to the source or to if the town will, another town will loan us trucks for the material we get over.
Has this, from Garroway to Flynn Avenue, always been the parameters of the project?
No, well, the original project only went to South Catherine Street, but it was a more extensive scope. There was a lot more stormwater improvements that were going to be included. There obviously were engineering costs.
Well, I just remember the last infrastructure meeting we had, I made the mistake of being confused about the boundaries, and it had been said that it was going to go to Sharon.
Sharon Ave is on towards the Arizona end. The town line,
Right.
or the town city line, is right there at the MLB substation with Sharon in South Catherine, or South.
Right. So, I mean, as far as I understood, that
Garroway
was
is
the
to the
original
north.
plan. The original plan was to go all the way to Sharon Avenue.
Yeah, we were stuck. Sharon Ave and Garroway is to the
Right.
north.
I know where that is.
Yes. But we've extended it from Garroway down to Flint. So we added another 390.
Okay. So you're going from Sharon
That's-
to Garroway.
to
Got
Flint.
it. Got it. Okay. Very good.
Almost to the DOT. Almost to the DOT.
All right. Very good.
Right.
And here are the buildings that we have at the compost plant stored already up there right now.
Oh my goodness.
We have a pile.
Yeah.
We already got
Tons.
those in place, so.
And that concludes actually work in progress. Upcoming works, Veterans Lane.
Do we have a start date on that?
We don't. Best guess, probably middle of September. We have to work out a traffic control plan. We have to fix a little valve that needs to be fixed and a little bit of drainage work to do. We've got most of it done already, but we'll put that together. The other thing we have to do is go out to Cornelia Street. That's the next one we want to look at. Do a utility survey, basins, valves, water service lines, make sure that we're set to do that before we pull the trigger. By that time, we'll get a final on what we spent on South Blue Street. We'll know where our CHIPS money stands. And make decisions.
So just a kind of overall question having to do with your taking on this work. And I was all
It's
for
exhausting.
it. Yeah, well, I was all for it and hoping that we could save money in doing so, but I'm wondering if you can offer any insights as to the impact of your overall departmental scope of work.
It's increased. I mean, there's no way around it. The men have performed great. They bought into it. But it does
No doubt.
it takes, basically we pick garbage and we go out and do the road. And the road takes us about a week. But preparedness, I mean, you see the bottom line when we save the money. The reason we save money is because we're prepared. When the contractor comes in to do the work, if we're not prepared, that disappears very quickly.
Yeah.
So it's my job, and Mr. Brody's job, and Andrew's job to make sure that everyone is in the right place at the right time, that we have the right number of trucks. I'm driving back and forth with crew, making sure trucks are where they're supposed to be. A lot of little moving parts there.
One thing you have to realize at this time of year is vacation too.
Right.
So our workforce is up there now.
So does that mean increasing
So we do
overtime
road
for
work,
you?
We put everything out and stop the garbage.
Yeah.
Road work done this week, and we'll go back to wherever we.
Right.
Yeah.
There's
And
there's no
it'll give us-
overtime involved.
There's overtime, absolutely.
Yes, there's
I mean, when we're in it, guys are in at 5:30, I'm in at 4:30.
Yeah.
So,
Has the new asphalt, has that helped with getting
It-
costs? Or
yeah,
is it-
the prices are fantastic, but one thing that drives it is asphalt escalation clause,
Mhm.
and the cost of asphalt emulsion has gone up. Right now, it was 275 a ton. I think the last invoice I saw was reflected in those numbers is 577 a ton. So that's the variable we have no control over. That's, we're allowed to, based on the current market value, increase your asphalt price off the base price.
Do we have a cost figure on the South Bruce Street? Any estimates on what that's gonna put us
It's 190 is what we have in
for the complete project?
for the complete project. Is what, because we made some adjustments to the capital.
And can I just ask, you mentioned hidden utilities on Main Road.
Yes.
Is that a big surprise, or?
No,
Okay.
it's not at all. Based on our experience out there repairing leaks, you find all
What you
sorts
have.
of neat stuff and not so neat stuff. What's been very fortunate for us is it's been dry. I don't know why, I can't explain it. But whenever we show up, maybe it's because of the water loop, it's like we're saying. So the contractor's done well. They've broken a couple sewer laterals, nothing crazy. Nothing out of, we've gotten around all the other stuff they're unidentified. We don't have mapping of them. We leave them in place. We move on.
Mike, is Veterans Lane going right to Boynton, or is it stopping by?
We're gonna make that determination. Actually, the original estimates, I believe, stopped by Kenny's, but we might go a little bit farther out. We'll take it, just like we did with South Peru. We'll do an assessment, and we get, we can go a little bit longer, a little bit shorter. We'll make sure we get it right.
Michael, I have a question. This is sort of a new model for Department of Public Works when it comes to paving. You haven't done a lot of this in the past.
We've done none of it in-house.
None of it. Do you think this is a good model going forward? Is it sustainable for you and your crews into the future?
It's, as long as this is not the answer to everything. Okay, this is, you have to apply this procedure appropriately. There are other things we can do in a similar manner. We have the time. But we have to be realistic about the amount of what we take on. This is a big year. The roads are real bad. We're doing this a lot for ourselves. I know everyone wants the streets to ride nice, but our tools take an awful beating in the winter time. The plow trucks, plow frames, what you don't see is the mechanics who are working on it. Having manholes and rough streets beats up the plows. It really beats them up. But if we use it the right way and don't overextend ourselves, I think it's realistic to do a couple of years like this. I mean, this is a big year. I mean, we're doing 4,000 feet tomorrow.
Wow.
That's Main.
That's South Peru.
South Peru.
Yeah.
Okay. And let me just ask, the Broad Street resurfacing, did that turn into a bigger project than originally planned?
I don't know what was on the original capital that from the prior city engineer. I know that Mike and I went out there. We had a really bad winter where we had a bunch of claims due to rough roads. I think we had 3 or 4 broken wheels, about 5 blown tires in one area alone. And again, it lended itself well to this procedure.
Because in the 2000 approved capital budget plan, there was $80,000 for 2017 for the Broad Street Ruger to Beekman. And now I see this as it came in at 112. I'm just wondering.
It went beyond Beekman.
Is that what?
Yeah, we went all the way down to South. We went from South Catherine all the way up to almost Draper.
So would 80 have been spent, do you think?
I can't speak to that.
Okay.
I didn't put that number in there. That's before us.
Okay. All right.
Other projects coming on, city mainline pavement marking. So the county comes in and does all our main line for us. They did obviously Broad Street. They're gonna methodically work their way through the city. It's kind of like a fill-in when they're working out, out of the country somewhere and it starts raining. They can come back in if the weather's good. They'll hit streets for us, and hopefully people don't run it over.
Okay, so,
Like on Broad?
yes.
The City Hall test window, I knew you were going to ask about this one. We're still waiting on the engineer. He's going to call me next week. I'll go up to his office and take a look at what he has together. If you like the package, what he has, we get it together and get it out to bid. For a window.
A window, okay.
And then the last one is, once we get a handle on the final cost for the mainline striping, we'll put out an RFP for the epoxy painting, which is the arrows, the crosswalks, bicycle lane markings.
And the striping is staying the same, there are no changes in the striping?
Yes, striping is staying. We had, the college reached out to us and we're not prepared to do that right now.
Any other questions for Mike?
Great work,
Thanks,
right?
Mike.
Really, super.
Mr. Ruff?
Evening. Overall, making water, collecting wastewater, operationally, knock on wood, things seem to be going smoothly. Chris Gussaw is transitioning real nicely to chief plant operator, and so that's going well there. Project-wise, the dewatering upgrades, as we know, are in design. Tonight we've got a request for contractor CDM Smith to do a rehabilitation design for our primary clarifiers. We know they need some concrete attention and some rehab on some of the steel structural supports. In order to save some money on cost in design, they propose to incorporate the work for the primary clarifiers into the work product that they're doing for the dewatering. So it'll be one large project. So they don't have to do two front ends, two sets of contract documents and all that. And hopefully during construction we'll get some efficiencies there too, but it's not quite clear to what extent that would be. We've applied for a grant for Cumberland Avenue Pump Station combined sewer overflow upgrades under the Water Quality Improvement Program that DEC has. So we can hear back on that. On the drinking water side, the mayor talked last week about the geotechnical report that we got. I'm in the process of writing up a summary of that work. And what we know in general is that we need more seismic improvements, earthquake protection, than we thought we were going to have. To what extent, what the options are, we're not quite sure yet. So I'm hoping within the next few weeks to have a summary of that report to you. And sometime in the next few weeks, I'll be bringing in a proposal for drilling some test wells in some sites that have been identified across the town of Plattsburgh and maybe one in Beacontown for looking at some groundwater sources to either supplement our existing water supply or maybe replace one of the reservoirs. If the mead improvements are looking super expensive, we may decide we want to do something else. So.
Are we still draining the reservoir, John, because of the
Mead, it was drawn down 5 feet. We're trying to maintain it there, so as it rains, it'll come up a little, they'll draw it back down and try to maintain it right at 5 feet. That could factor into the long-term solution. A lot of the seismic analysis is based on what they call the pool level, the level of water in the reservoir. So keeping that water level down like we're at now provides an increased factor of safety all across the board in the spillway and the seismic analysis. That might end up being one of the long-term solutions, is permanently keeping that pool level down and then not needing to implement the whole range of seismic improvements. So we'll be looking at solutions like that, both infrastructure improvements and physical improvements versus operational type things. So that's it in a nutshell. I don't know if you have any questions on the clarifier proposal. But
Let me just ask, the test sites for possible well drilling, they're in the town of Plattsburgh?
they're outside of
The city, are they in the town of Plattsburgh?
Yes, some are private, some are public, and that discussion will probably want to have an executive session because it'll involve negotiations with landowners potentially on agreements for access to the sites with purchase options.
So this is just a thought to have testing test sites.
What's that?
We're not testing yet.
We haven't drilled the test holes yet. We've done 2 levels of analysis. One was kind of a desktop analysis where hydrogeologists looked at all different kinds of maps and aerial photography to see what kind of formations look like they'd be productive. Based on that information, we narrowed the areas down to, I think, 5 or 6 that we went out and did a electromagnetic study of the subsurface to determine, to a further extent, what the potential would be for groundwater wells. That's been complete. Now we have a list of sites ranked from what looks most promising to least promising.
So the long-range thought behind that is this would supplement need or potentially
could supplement or
replace?
could replace.
They're distributed over 3 different towns, and this can require a lot of analysis, and John's working really hard to prepare a pretty complete set of proposals for us, but there's 2 things his water system needs to do. One, it needs to provide the flow every day of around 2 million gallons or so on a typical day. And the second, we need the storage capacity. The reservoir system has about 300-day storage capacity. Without need, you're down to about 75 days, which is still good. So it's a combination of wells that might be able to provide the flow necessary, and then 1 or 2 or 3 dams which provides the storage necessary. So John is really trying to optimize all those and introduce more variables than we've had before to come up with potentially something that's either more cost effective or can avoid requiring us to put in some really, really big investments.
And climate change has really turned engineering on its head. It used to be you looked at historical data and used that to predict the future. The historical data, to a large extent, is useless because weather patterns are crazy and we're getting these wild storms. So the direction that the engineering community is going is we need maximum flexibility in the future so that regardless of what happens, we can adapt and respond and we're resilient and all that. So the more water sources we have and in different aquifers and of different types, the more flexibility we'll have to deal with any kind of situation, whether it's a drought, whether it's a contamination, whether it's a physical failure, whether, regardless of an earthquake or anything like that. So.
That reminds me of a question I wanted to ask you. With this hot summer we're having, little rain, what are our reservoir levels like? Are we in danger? Have we ever been in danger?
No, we're not down. I believe Westbrook's pretty much full. Mead's been kept artificially down. So if we hadn't drawn it down, despite the small amount of rain, we'd still be pretty close to full capacity.
Has the city ever had to ration water or
I'm not
limit
aware of
water
any rationing of water restrictions.
Water bans.
What's the last? You know when the last time they drew out of the Saranac was? It's got to be more than 25 years. That would be an indicator to me that there would be a drought problem. We've got the ability to draw out of Saranac as an emergency if we need to. That hasn't happened since I've been here.
I think there have been watering bans on.
Yeah,
The town's had some water
watering.
restrictions.
There wasn't a
Yeah,
city.
we haven't had it.
A long time ago.
One of the times we talked, you, John, it seemed like the water fund was not in trouble, but running a deficit. And that seems to have gone away. What do you attribute that to?
I don't know. I haven't looked at the latest reports yet. My understanding is that the reserve fund is pretty much depleted except for money we've specifically stored for Mead and for Westbrook improvements. So there's money in the reserve, but it's for Mead and for Westbrook.
Okay,
so if we run into other capital projects, we don't have a reserve for
It's all
them.
spoken
We have to
for.
borrow the money.
Okay.
Remember what the AED showed for last year, whether we ran in the red or the black? Surplus, okay. So good.
Okay.
So as to what that attributed to,
More use.
because we're bringing in more money than we're spending. The specific things, I probably within the next 6 weeks, I'll go through the fund and identify areas where we've done as good or better than we thought revenue-wise, and areas where we maybe didn't spend as much. See if that's going to continue, whether we can sustain that, to get a little better picture on what the near long-term, 3 to 5 years is a good.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, John.
Is that it?
Any other questions for John?
Very attentive.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if we have any other reports from departments. Okay, moving on. Agenda items that need to be approved by the committee for recommendation to the council or not. First, request from the Plattsburgh High School to have its annual homecoming parade on Saturday, October 13th, 2018.
Why is this on the infrastructure?
Well, I think I was wondering that too, and I
Okay.
think it's because it also dealt with costs for public works in the last
So
sentence.
technically, I think it is on the agenda, well, it's on the table that it was already moved
It
towards
was-
the agenda,
Yeah.
but you can discuss it right now, it makes sense to discuss it.
Right, because it deals with public works.
Okay.
I was wondering that too when I saw the agenda, and then I saw that they both involve public works, so. And I know we discussed this last week and it was tabled at our regular meeting. And I don't know if there's anyone here from,
Actually,
Right.
Plattsburgh High School got a hold of the mayor's office yesterday and said that they would not have a representative. They were able to get a representative to show tonight, but if we, maybe next week.
okay. So I guess at this point then, there's no motion to move it from this committee to the agenda.
Well, my point is that it's already.
On the
been
agenda,
moved,
it's
But you
tabled.
can just leave it on the table once we get to that
Okay.
item. Yep.
But I'm talking about from the committee level, there's no action needed from the committee?
No.
Okay. Second request is from the Adirondack North Country Gender Alliance to hold a parade and festival from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday, September 29th, 2018. Parade would travel on Margaret Street to Broad Street to Oak Street to Court Street, returning to Trinity Park for the festival. The group is requesting street closures and power in Trinity Park. There will be vendors and tents also in Trinity Park. A utility fee of $20 for electricity, a certificate of insurance for events and vendors, porta potties, dig safe permits if there are tents involved, and the health department requirements for vendors are required. The cost is approximately $2,250 for police and approximately $3,000 for public works that involve the city. So,
I've got a couple of questions. First of all, are there indeed vendors? Is there a need for a vendor fee? Wasn't there a question on that?
Well, I wasn't here last week, but that would be one of the questions I would have. I looked at the application, I don't see where it said no, where vendors were.
We will have organizations tabling, but historically, we have not had food vendors.
So is anybody selling anything? As long as it's information that's given out, that's fine.
I'm looking at a very similar format from the last 2 years, so there would not really be any sales. And it would be mostly organizations tabling. And I know if there were food vendors, that's a whole other issue we don't want to get into. And one of the reasons we hold it downtown is because we want our attendees to make use of the food facilities, the merchants who are in your downtown area. We want our people to go to your restaurants, go to your facilities, and drive business to your merchants. So that is why one of the reasons we don't do food.
I guess I have a question for Dean regarding that. If, say, an independent vendor or somebody came up with a food truck or something and parked it out there in front, would that be
Well, what
part
we
of it?
would-
Well,
Yeah, so vendors, one thing, food trucks, another thing.
But if
I guess I'm just wondering if that then becomes associated with the event.
But
If
if
it's-
they're not applying for the vendors,
Vendors
it's not
license.
Yeah, I
your
would say
problem
no,
to have
yeah.
to worry.
So that
Okay,
would be
okay,
an action by
I'm
them.
just kind of
If there's
running
a population
scenarios
draw and
that-
That was a business decision that vendor made.
They-
they could
okay.
do it.
They may need to permit that.
Yeah.
And what we have done is on our tabling application, we have a disclaimer that if vendors are selling anything, that they need to apply for a separate permit from the city. So we put that right on our tabling request form. But our goal is to drive our attendees to your downtown merchants. And that's one of the reasons that we are looking at a route change this year instead of going up to SUNY Plattsburgh. If we can keep more of the attendees in your downtown area, we want to encourage our attendees to go to your merchants and make this worthwhile for downtown businesses. So that's one of the reasons we are doing this proposed route change. The other thing we found last year is when we went up to SUNY, probably a third or a little more did not return back to Trinity Park. So if we can again keep people in the downtown area longer, we think that's going to be more beneficial, not only to our event, but to the downtown.
How many participants did you have last year?
Several hundred.
Yeah,
I think we
it's
did,
great.
I think we counted 300.
500
500, okay. So we do bring people in from all over New York State, and we will be doing that again this year. We have people coming up from Buffalo. Our guest speaker is coming up from Long Island, so there'll be a contingent from the city. We do have people coming up from Albany. I don't know if you're aware, but last year we had representatives from New York State Governor's Office come up. And I know you have many groups who put on events, but we were actually given citations and commendations from the New York State Governor's Office. And I don't think a lot of the groups that you have get this sort of recognition, and that is certainly good for the city of Plattsburgh. Again, we want Plattsburgh to shine.
May we look?
Absolutely.
I guess one of my big concerns is the approximate costs involved to the city. The estimates of $2,250 for police and approximately $3,000 for public works. I don't know if, Mike, you can kind of elaborate on what the cost involved.
We have to shut the streets down. Going on.
So that would be the.
It's an overtime situation for us.
And you also encompass the straight time situation. Prior to the event, we usually lay the route out ahead of time, much like the 4th of July. Every year we do the same thing, any was half marathon, 4th of July parades, any events throughout the city. There's a lot of setup work to do ahead of time. And that's when it's in this case time.
Throughout the road, we're going to do front lane, or just the edge of the road, side of the road, that's not road. That's what we have to look at, so.
But, you know, aside from the specific costs that are estimated here, it is, I think, important to note the precedent that council has set with groups that may not have gotten commendations from the governor's office, but certainly the Take Back the Night group that's, you know, come to us and wanted to hold their march in the street, and we had to deny them. I think that was the group, because of the overtime and whatever other related costs that were incurred. So for me, it would be a matter of fairness, you know, to be consistent in the application of our, you know, kind of policies about this. However, I mean, just having heard you say that we do these things for half marathons and other kinds of things, kind of switches up my thinking a bit. They pay for it. There you go.
The half marathon.
There you go.
is in excess of
All right.
$5,000.
Yeah. That's actually, I think, I recall for the Plattsburgh Half Marathon, that was a cost that was brokered over time. It used to be that they didn't have to pay, but then as we began to understand the financial financial
budgets.
ramifications, we did include that. So that might, is kind of pleasant as that reality of that is for a group such as yours who's really trying to do a great thing. The fact that you're going to meet in Trinity Park is just fabulous. And what you say about the value of your visibility in that area, and then what you then in turn bring to the entire downtown as you gather, I think that's totally invaluable. Can't be underestimated. But the consistency with which we apply our thinking to all of these similar kinds of events is really important. It's just fair to treat everybody the same.
Yes.
Do I recall last week, though, that the issue is only the street closures that have,
Yes.
and I know the sidewalks still also impose a set of challenges too. It's difficult for people to necessarily navigate them. But do I recall from last week that there wasn't the same sort of cost concerns for a sidewalk limited event? Is that
Right.
correct?
I mean, and we understand that not everybody can navigate the sidewalks with the same kind of facility. But in a way, if you could think about it as being, access, it may not be the same. I know you can't ever equate this kind of thing. But to be able to gather in the park is an option if a person who is, mobility impaired, differently able, can't navigate the streets, doesn't feel safe doing so, then there is that option to show up there.
Right, and I guess I would ask too, and there would probably be little to no cost involved if it was just the festival and not the parade.
Well, I think there's even little to no cost involved, even if they just were on the sidewalks and
Right.
the festival in Trinity Park.
No, but I mean about and Rochelle made a good point, someone who was physically unable to go along on the parade could still gather at the festival.
I was gonna ask along that line, what is the cost is there cost with your department, the police department, just to use Trinity Park? Are there costs attached to that?
$20.
Okay,
And
like
that's-
the electric fee. Okay, then the two little side streets that, if those were closed off, because if 500 people in Trinity Park is
Well,
tight.
in
So,
the,
would there be a cost attached to those two street closures?
Lower court and.
To barricade, you'd simply have to
If
barricade.
we had to staff it,
Yes.
open and close it, there would be this.
Oh.
But normally we leave barricades, homes there, and people have a festival.
Right, right.
But there are the occasions where we put them out ahead of time, and someone else will remove them, and then we have to enforce it.
And then you have the church.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. This is Saturday, 12 to 4, right. But it would require probably a Friday night closure.
so in the past, we have not sought closure of the two side streets.
Okay.
So that, we're not really worried about
Okay,
that.
because there was that parking lot consideration facing City Hall. So, okay, that is not a consideration then for those two side streets.
And so then if we did use the sidewalks, there would again, as in past years, not be the cost involved.
That's what I understand.
For the march, for the sidewalk.
For the
Right,
sidewalk.
right.
But isn't police staffing necessary to help marchers cross this crosswalks?
But I think last week, didn't Chief Ritter say that it would be minimal?
Yeah.
That,
Yeah, because they can move,
right.
And in the last 2 years, there was, when we had that, there was not a cost.
Right.
And so we will do the electricity like we did last year. We will do the tents. And that's just because we never know what the weather is going to be. But I need to also take this back to our planning committee.
Okay.
As much as I would like to say,
So-
yes, this is, being
So
the.
do you think it'd be wise for us to table it again, so that
We're
would
going
allow
to,
you?
But I would like to allow 2 other people to
Sure.
speak, if that's all right.
May I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
Before you leave the podium, you did this last year,
Last 2 years.
2 years.
This will be our 3rd.
And did you use the sidewalks in those previous 2 years?
Yes.
I remember
And
last year, you did, didn't you?
They went to SUNY.
The
Yeah,
first
we marched
year,
up
we put it, was the first time we ever did it. And that's where the sidewalk issue really came up. Because the sidewalks from Margaret to Broad up to SUNY were very difficult for our participants.
But
And
you
we
think
had many complaints from participants on that set of sidewalks.
this new route you mapped out downtown, you think will be okay?
Checked out the sidewalks.
That's part of what I'm going to
Yeah.
do tonight when I'm up here.
Okay.
But we wanted a different route so we can keep it in your downtown and keep people
Good.
here. Because we do believe in Plattsburgh and we want, so a couple of things to answer your question, and I'll do it quick. Yes, last year, because I was in this room the night you had all the department closures and you were laying off people. We thought, yes, we would certainly be here to help the city, especially last year in that time of need, with the hope that in future years you might be able to come and help us. So, yes, yes, you could say there was a precedent, but we were looking to help you. So at some point, you can help us, especially with the amount of people we're bringing into the city, the number of dollars we're bringing into the city, the exposure. I remember last year there was a gentleman here who was talking about the quality of life issues. And that's one of the things we are bringing is diversity, quality of life, recognition from all around the state, from the governor's office. Those are intangibles that Plattsburgh can certainly market. I understand there's a cost, but there's a benefit as well. So these are things I ask you to consider. I would like to briefly have two other people chat.
Okay.
And then I will take
It has
this
to be
back.
brief because we are running.
Yes, yes, they will be brief. I will take this back to my planning committee.
So I guess we will table again
So I
this
would like
week. We will
to,
table again until,
Sure, well,
On
in
the
the,
table, yeah.
in the transition though, could you do it in two stages? Approve for them to do a sidewalk festival, so at least you've got that clarity?
that would be
well, a
And then if
sidewalk
they wanna
festival
come
or a
back
festival in
and then
Trinity.
expand to the roadway.
We could do
then-
we could do the festival in Trinity.
Yeah, and the
Approve the festival in
sidewalk.
Trinity and then later on take up the issue of the parade.
yes.
Well, I'm proposing, it's for your consideration, but I'm proposing approve the festival and the sidewalk parade, and then if they feel that they've got the capacity to do a road and the extra costs, et cetera.
You mean the
then-
money, if they think they have the money?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then at least you know for sure you've got at least the sidewalk
Sidewalk.
approved, because it sounds like there isn't the same sort of fiscal
Right.
concern from.
Which would save another trip back and,
Yeah,
Which
then
would be
you may
nice
just
because I'm
say,
coming up
let's-
from Sarah.
yeah,
right.
yeah.
But I would very briefly like to introduce Amber, and then after her, Jennifer. And I thank you for your time and your consideration, and we look to have another very successful third year.
And Amber, that mic is only for the streaming. I think we can pull it down so that you can reach it. There you go.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time, for me to talk in front of you all. And I am a disabled queer person here in Plattsburgh, and I have attended Pride for the last 2 years and involved with the Adirondack North Country Gender Alliance. And I have to say that I find that having a sidewalk parade is very difficult for me because of the years past, and I have had to have someone push me the whole parade. And for me as a disabled person and wanting to be independent and show my visibility as a trans person, I want to be doing those things myself. And to have inadequate sidewalks to do a sidewalk parade, I find is unacceptable as a disabled person. And it has deterred me from a lot of other events that have been held downtown because I know that I can't access them. Because there would be marches in the sidewalk. And I honestly would like to see that change. And to set a precedent for Plattsburgh, for my own disabled community that's in Plattsburgh. I know several people that are disabled and queer that don't come out to these events because it is not accessible and they feel unwelcome. And I feel as a community, we should not be treating those people in that way, shape, or form, and feel something needs to be done.
Thank you. And just to follow up on what you're saying about the condition of the sidewalk, I'd like to add that the city of Plattsburgh should be committed to fixing those sidewalks.
Yes.
So that people of all abilities can walk them, wheel their way through them, under any circumstances, even beyond regular, just events. They need to be, we need to plan for the day that our sidewalks are
because I can also
order.
say too, like I'm a local runner in this community, and I've done running downtown here, and there are some sidewalks that the sidewalk is not even with the pavement on the curb cut, and in a wheelchair it is extremely difficult to get that wheelchair up onto the sidewalk when
Thank you
you're
for
crossing
making that point.
crosswalks.
Thank you for making that
And
point.
using the sidewalk like that for a parade is just too difficult. And honestly, it really deters me from even going. But I go anyway because I want my visibility known.
Thank you, Amber.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, Jennifer's next.
Thank you, members of the council, for giving us the opportunity to address you tonight about the event. Well, tonight's the first time I saw the costs related with the police protection and with Public Works. I don't think we even considered that cost before. Obviously, this is something that we could not ask the city to even pay for. I'm a resident of the city. That means I'm a taxpayer. So the fiscal concerns of the city, they're concerns for me. This kind of money we cannot raise through bake sales and bottle drives. So I have an idea I'd like to propose tonight about making such a Pride event an official city recognized event that could in the future be fully sponsored. Just like the 4th of July, just like Mayor's Cup. And that way we'd be able to, have the money for the cost for the police protection and Public Works. And that is something that I think that we can all work together on. So that is what I had to say
Excellent
tonight.
idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
And I just want to thank you for your time, your consideration on behalf of many of our members. Thank you for your consideration tonight.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So, I guess, Dean, we can, if, with Colin's idea to make the approval of the festival and the sidewalk parade, we could do that in the regular meeting.
Yep, so
But we'd need to have an amendment of this.
So what you would do, you would have a motion to remove item 7B from the table, put it on the table, and then have a motion to amend it per the amendment, and then vote on it.
But we need to move it out of the committee though first, correct?
No, I
it's
think you already
already
did that,
been
you already did that
last
last week. Yep.
Okay. Moving on, request from Jonathan Ruff, the environmental manager, to have the common council agree to and authorize executing Amendment 1 to CDM Smith's agreement for dewatering upgrades to include this work at a lump sum cost of $68,400. Funding would be from capital project H8130.52. Moved, Mayor Reed, second. All in favor? Aye.
Right.
And also, with that will be a motion to have that on the agenda, which it's already on the agenda. Number 4, request from Matthew Miller to have the Common Council authorize payment to Saratoga Associates and AES Northeast for engineering services in support of the city's consolidation funding application, CFAs, in amounts of $4,850 and $1,689.25 respectively, to be expensed out of the community development budget. So, and that's also to put it on the agenda, that motion. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Old business. Hearing none. New business. I know, Mayor, you have something.
Just a couple things. I think you're going to see a presentation momentarily from Outside Art with regard to artwork on our existing kiosk or booth out here. I offered the council some recommendations on cryptocurrency code. I'd recommend you take that up as soon as you can. You do know it'll be a local law, so once you have it in a point where, or whatever you end up doing with that, then there'll be the 2-week announcement for the hearing and all that kind of stuff too.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Any other new business? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye. And this brings us to our work session. I've got a good 5 minutes to discuss things. I think you've had a pretty thorough discussion on many of the items already on the agenda tonight. I think the ones that we haven't already discussed, there's a routine matter on Article 7, tax certiorari case. And we've discussed this in the past, so I think you're familiar with the issue already.
Just a quick question, what does it mean in terms of real dollars as far as?
Most of the question?
I can hear the question.
What does it mean in terms of real dollars as far as
the reduction?
Tax paid, yeah.
About 700,000, 600,000 off the base works out to about $6,000 or $7,000 of annual revenue off that property tax base. And one of the things that has been really satisfying in this process is to work so closely with Mr. Sapinski up at the County Tax Assessment Office. He's in full concurrence for these recommendations.
Was there any work done with the school superintendent? Will the school district be impacted by this?
They've discussed it as well. As a matter of fact, I may have mentioned in the past that the county and the school district are willing to share in the costs of some of these litigations because they recognize that, well, heck, the school district share and stake in this is larger than the cities and counties combined. So we've been working very cooperatively with them. We had a full briefing session about a month ago on the status of all the various cases and trimmed that number down to a much more manageable number too.
I just want to take this opportunity to reiterate a point I often bring up during these discussions, and that is that for me, it's frustrating. I'm sure that the appeal for a reduction in assessment comes from perhaps, I don't mean I'm sure, perhaps the revenue decreases. There are a number of considerations, I'm sure, that go into any property owner applying for this. However, it seems to me that investing in one's property, upgrading one's property, makes it viable and generates more revenue from that person so that they can, in fact, pay the assessed value for their property. So, to what extent does letting a property go, when is it our responsibility to say, oh, I'm sorry, your property isn't, making the money you wanted it to, but why? You know, so I think it's a complex question, and I'm not sure exactly how to address it, and, you know, in such a way that it would protect the city and guarantee its access to the revenue it deserves and needs. But I just wanted to put that out there, and I hope I made myself clear.
I think that's a good point. I see a few reasons why people bring these cases. One is deteriorating market conditions, and I think this example is probably in that category. The other is just not taking care of your property, and I think your concerns are well noted. And then still others just challenge these on a strategic basis, on a regular basis, for almost no reason at all, thinking that they might get something out of it. And those are the most problematic of them all. We take the advice of our legal counsel very seriously, and we've given her the instructions to be willing to go to trial when necessary if we think that it's not a legitimate reason. And I have to admit, I'm quite pleased with the job she's done and the collaboration.
I don't doubt that it's you know, well deliberated case here, and I'm just saying the thing I say, you know, often when these kinds of matters are brought forward.
And you may well see other more troubling ones in the future
Right.
than this one. Yeah, absolutely. Any other discussion on that item? Seeing no other discussion, I think we're about time to begin the meeting. Let's adjourn the work session and begin with the Common Council session this evening with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Reed.
Present.
Councilor Armstrong.
Here.
Councilor Kelly.
Here.
Councilor Dowdle.
Here.
Councilor Enzo.
Here.
Councilor McFarland. Councilor Kretzer.
Here.
Just a very brief comment. Some of you joined us earlier today. We held a press conference to discuss our consolidation of land at the Ruger Street location and our desire and conviction to proceed with that. I hope I made a good case that this is something that's good for the city, the town, the county, the entire region, and I hope and actually trust that will be seen in that light and it'll proceed. But we've got the conviction to continue on with this. We're very excited to, for the first time, have actually 230 acres of developable land, an opportunity we haven't had in decades. Conversations are beginning and are productive and in the best of spirits, so I'm confident everything will work out well. But those of you who couldn't make the press conference wanted to report back to you on that.
Thank you. I know we'll see it in the news.
I'm sure you will. So is there anything I should add to that? You guys were there. That's all I have. Thank you.
Resolved that the payrolls for the various departments of the city of Plattsburgh for the week ending August 8, 2018 in the amount of $100,719.67 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and the city clerk are hereby empowered and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Oh, look at the whole row. First and second. Moved by Councilor Kretzer, second by Councilor Kelly. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. You've got your usual reports in your packets. Anything to add for governance strategy and city operations, Councilor Kretzer or Councilor Armstrong?
Yes, I would like to show you the survey that I've developed. I've got it on thumb drive. It shouldn't take too long. Okay. And of course, I don't think we'll want to take up time during the meeting parsing out what may be needed or struck from this document, but it's a start, and the other question will be whether or not it can be put on the city website so that people from the public and those people who are affected by I guess, my proposal, maybe the proposal of some of you. Okay, thank you. So, as I had said, and I know it was kind of hard to hear me last week, the idea is to not only poll food vendors throughout the city, including, and thanks to Councilor Ensel, we should include the school district, the college, the hospital,
Vendors at events.
and vendors at events, right? But to kind of give some background, I felt as though we needed to provide certain information. So I just have a page of information that summarizes the idea and what we're trying to gather from this kind of survey. So if you'll advance to the next slide, I just explained that there's a series of pieces of information that I'd like the participants in the survey to read before they actually weigh in with their opinion. So the first is some of the information that I got from Rory Fisher. It just kind of summarizes the extent of the problem. One of the studies was of Lake Champlain in particular, and you can see that I have hyperlinked these sources so that anybody who engaged in this survey would be able to actually also see the research. I mentioned those cities that have already banned plastic straws and the companies that have either plans in place or are developing them. I give particular attention to the Seattle, Washington ordinance, and as Councilor Ensel pointed out, it includes more than straws. But I didn't know this, it also includes forks, knives, and spoons. So I have a link to that law and how it was developed and how the transitional program proceeds. And then finally, I have, do you support banning plastic straws? But I decided to go for broke here. And so it's possible to say that you are in favor of or not of plastic straws, swizzle sticks, and cocktail picks as well. Or let's go for the whole ball game and include forks, knives, and spoons. So there would be 3 possible responses, or just one, I guess. And then I stuck my neck out a bit, and I probably needed your approval to do this, but I thought since we have this population, participating in a survey, why not kind of take the temperature of those people and see whether they would be in favor of further ordinances to restrict the use of various kinds of plastic and other kind of green initiatives. So I sent you all a copy, thank you, Councilor Chris, of this, and I will expect your feedback, and hopefully we'll get the actual survey up by next Thursday.
Rochelle, were the links also going to be on the webpage? Like
I
where
would
you
hope
said
so.
what? The only reason I question that is I don't know if that by showing that information, if that is kind of one argument, whereas you're asking people should they ban it or shouldn't they?
Here's
But
the logic. I'm putting this forward as a proponent of the ban. I'm initiating this, and I'm trying to get a sense of whether people agree or disagree. Sure, I guess to be really objective, I would have to put information about opposition to it, but that's not, the purpose in my mind is to say this is what the initiative could be, do you agree with it? And, feel free if that shouldn't be part of it,
saying
I understand.
As far as having two
Well, let's
sides.
engage in that discussion
Sure.
throughout the week, and we'll come to some kind of consensus. All right? Thank you.
I'm not saying I'm against it.
You're a scholar, I know.
Thank you,
It's a
Michelle.
good point.
Is it as simple as you constructing a survey monkey and then you would merely need some place to host it from off our
Yes.
website?
Yes.
That seems simple enough.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Any other reports from governance? Seeing none, City Infrastructure, Councilor Ansel?
Yes, we had a rather long meeting earlier today. We did get updates from Mr. Bissett with the DPW. Broad Street has been, project has been finished. There's still some striping to be done. It looks like it came in about $50,000 under budget, which is always nice. Work continues on Main Road with a mid-November completion date on target. Work is continuing right now on South Peru Street with anticipation of having it done early next week. And looking at working on Veterans Lane in mid-September and Cornelia Street following. Also test window for City Hall, and also John Ruff. There are two items that are on tonight's agenda that have been put forward by the committee, and we also did have, as you're aware, long discussion about requests from the about use of the streets and festival for the Gender Alliance.
Thank you. Finance and Budget, Councilor Kelly?
Yes, sir. Monthly meeting is next Thursday at 4:30. And I'm very excited about some things that are going on financially in the city. Last month, Chamber of Commerce reported that we were about $790,000 to the good for our ending balance for the first half of the year. And I thought that's a great way to explain and look at what our cost saving measures are doing. And I applied the same logic to this month after Chamberlain Marks produced his report, and I hope all of you have had a chance to see it by now. But this month we are about $840,000 ahead of our ending balance last July 2017. So in a month we've increased our available monies by $50,000. And dare I say it, if this trend continues, we could be looking at $1 million unencumbered fund balance at the end of the year. And we have all worked so hard and supported our department heads in all their initiatives to try and save dollars, and it's really paying off. And as I said, I couldn't be more happy and more excited about that. I did have one concern that I shared with the council by email earlier this week about our taxable value, increase in taxable value. In our 5-year plan, we called for a 1% increase in taxable value to all of our properties. And it turns out that in 2019, according to our assessor, Mr. Serpitsky, we will be looking at more like a 0.5% increase in taxable value. 0.5% increase. And when we had projected a 1% increase, so roughly half of what we projected is what's going to come in for next year. It's not really a cause for alarm, but it makes the task of balancing the budget according to the council's 5-year plan a little more difficult for the mayor and his department heads. But we know that they will rise to the challenge as they always do. But then we got some good news today. Actually, good news a couple of days ago. It didn't really occur to me until today that this was good news, and that is that tax revenues are up in the county. So there is some good news there to maybe offset that problem we have with taxable value. So I just looked at Mr. Marks's report today, and I just couldn't be happier the way the revenue is streaming in much above expectations. Spending is way down, and of course that equates to a fund balance. So I can't thank our department heads enough for the hard work they're doing. I can't thank Mr. Marks enough for the difficult work he's doing of helping us see where our challenges are and where our benefits are. And I think City of Plattsburgh, we have a lot to be proud of. And let's keep going in this direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Public safety, Councilor Dowell.
I have no updates since the last meeting, and in preparation for our meeting 2 weeks from tonight, I'd like to be able to speak with the police chief and the fire chief in preparation of that agenda.
Conduct a joint meeting for all that.
Sure.
Anything else? Plattsburgh Public Library, Councilor Armstrong.
Go to the library, check out books. Go
And all kinds of
and
other stuff.
hang out.
Drink coffee.
Yeah.
MLD, Councilor McFarland. Oh, he's absent tonight, but I can probably speak for him in that MLD is continuing on with their completion of the property purchase, and I alluded to that earlier. Thank you all for your work, and of course MLD is also, Bill Trace has also been very instrumental in not only helping us discuss the cryptocurrency code with the Public Service Commission and other experts, but he's taken upon himself other interesting and novel ways that you all can protect the ratepayers as well. So thank you for your input and research in that. I'm sure the council will be drawing upon your expertise as they discuss the cryptocurrency code too. Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, just following up on what you said, I'm trying to figure out how to facilitate establishing the final draft of the resolution and preparing for a public hearing, and wondering if anybody has any ideas about how we should go about that. Do you want Josh and I to take that on as government and operations? Governance and operations. We could meet briefly next week, and maybe you could send us your feedback. I know I raised a few questions, and we can further revise and edit, and maybe have that on the agenda for next week to hold the public hearing meeting.
Thank you. Resolve the reports as listed are hereby ordered, received, and any written reports are placed on file among the public records of the city clerk's office. Moved by Councilor Ensel and second by Councilor Armstrong. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. No new recommendations from the boards, although Sylvia swore in 2 new board members for planning over the last week, and I think that the planning board chair is very grateful to have those 2 members. So thank you for that. Please continue.
Resolved that the bills audited by the Common Council for the week ending August 10th, 2018 in the amount of $830,820.02 are authorized and allowed, and the mayor and city clerk are hereby authorized and directed to sign warrants drawn on the city chamberlain for the payment thereof.
Moved by Councilor Dahl, second by Councilor Kelly. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. This is one of 2 opportunities for the public to address the council. This first opportunity is for items that are currently on the existing agenda. Although I guess I could have some latitude and knowing that there may be an item of new business and invite you to speak briefly to answer some questions that people may have had with regard to the kiosk and the outside art. Please.
Hi, I'm Amy Guglielmo from Outside Art, Plattsburgh Public Art Project, and I don't know if you've noticed some of the murals that have been happening in downtown Plattsburgh. We recently did a 4th of July in Plattsburgh mural at the corner of Gerke and Bridge Street, and we have a Champy sailing mural down at Plattsburgh Boat Basin. Those are our latest creations. We're requesting that we can use the back wall on the kiosk in downtown Plattsburgh for a location for a new Unity mural by a Canadian artist who would be incorporating a design that represents multiple cultures. We feel that a Unity design would be great in downtown, and we're hoping that with the additional murals downtown, that we can make this a family-friendly area and sort of spruce up that corner, because we think there's a great opportunity there. We have another mural going above 30 City Hall Place at the same time, and we think it'd be really great to see 2 mural artists working in that area and then create some sort of dedication ceremony that involves these artists. And we've received considerable public feedback. People really like participating in the arts and watching this happen. And it would be so nice if the city could participate by letting us use that wall. It's fully funded and fully sponsored, so we have absolutely no cost to the city, just permission to use the wall. And we'll clean it. We'll clean the space and then...
Amy, is there any sort of sketch or draft of
Sure.
what the...
So I can actually show you. I have a terrible reproduction, but I will show this to you, and then I can show you the example of the artist's work as well. So it's a colorful design.
This is the same?
Yeah. So it would be slightly altered because of the size and locations. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
It's really colorful.
It's a much better texture on the back. The front to work on. Okay.
It's perfect
Okay,
wall.
it is. It is. I was thinking it was like the front. Okay.
So it's like this, yeah. It's something incorporating these colors and designs.
Amy, can you describe exactly where it is again?
It's the concession stand.
The concession
It's the
stand.
back
In front of,
wall.
in front
Sorry.
of
Where
the monument.
Italian ice used to be sold. Yes, it's the
On
back.
the back wall of that.
Right. Yes.
It's sort of an unused space, but it's a perfect canvas, the size and location would be really ideal. And I think it'd be an exciting location with all the things that are happening down there to have this be a first step. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for this and all your efforts.
Thank
Amy.
you.
Any other individuals would like to please come address the council on the agenda items, knowing there'll be another opportunity to discuss items at the end of the meeting?
It says the sidewalk adjacent to it. That's the rest of the
Seeing none, do I have a motion to remove item 7A from the table? This is with regard to the homecoming parade. Leave that on the table for now, consensus? Next item, motion to remove item 7B from the table.
So moved.
And second by Councilor Ansel. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. And if I understood your discussion earlier, you wish to make a couple of changes to the existing motion.
This says the sidewalk adjacent to it.
So it'd be the part, we changed that second sentence, the parade would
Just read
travel.
the whole thing.
Okay, would you like to read the whole thing?
So, anticipating the amendment based on the discussion, this is how I would suggest it be read. In accordance with the request, therefore, the Common Council approves Adirondack North Country Gender Alliance to hold a parade and festival from 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday, September 29th, 2018. The parade would travel on the sidewalk adjacent to Margaret Street, to Broad Street, to Oak Street, to Court Street, returning to Trinity Park for the festival. The group is requesting power in Trinity Park, and there will be tents in Trinity Park. A utility fee of $20 for electricity, a certificate of insurance for event, porta potties, dig safe permits will be required.
I'd like to offer that amendment.
Moved by Councilor Armstrong as amended, second by Councilor Ansel. Further discussion?
So if there's any cost attached to this now with the departments because of sidewalk use, how will the cost be determined?
I think that would then, if they request it, would be a subsequent addition to this, a new resolution to also add the street component and the associated costs. The only cost at this point would be the simple cost for the permit for electricity.
So there would be no crosswalk, street crossings?
From the report that Chief Ritter said last week, there's no additional expected cost for simply a sidewalk.
I'll consult with the captain, but I don't believe that there is going to be any additional costs.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
Any further discussion? Prepared to vote? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor Ketzer?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore, the Common Council authorizes the mayor to sign a deed from the city of Plattsburgh to the city of Plattsburgh and other associated conveyance and merger documents in order to merge tax property parcel 220.4-31.1, 220.4-31.31, and 220.4-32 into a single parcel.
Moved by Counselor Kelly, second by Counselor Dowdle. Discussion? Seeing none, roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor Ketzer?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore, the Common Council authorizes the city chamberlain to revise capital project 88130.52, 2007 WPCP structural improvements for an additional $50,000 of funding from the sewer capital reserve.
Moved by Counselor Ensel and seconded by Counselor Armstrong. Discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor Ketzer?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore, the Common Council authorizes executing Amendment 1 to CDM Smith's agreement for the dewatering upgrades to include this work at a lump sum cost of $68,400. Funding will be from capital project 88130.52.
Moved by Counselor Armstrong, seconded by Counselor Dowdle. Discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor Ketzer?
Yes.
Whereas Skyway Properties LLC petitioner filed Article 7 real property
I'd like to
assessment.
waive the reading and move the motion.
Moved by Counselor Armstrong, seconded by Counselor Ensel. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed. Discussion on the item itself? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor Ketzer?
Yes.
Resolved in accordance with the request, therefore, the Common Council authorizes payment to Saratoga Associates and AES Northeast for engineering services in support of the city's consolidated funding applications, CFAs, in the amount of $4,850 and $1,689.25 respectively to be expensed out of the community development budget.
Moved by Counselor Armstrong, seconded by Counselor Ensel. Discussion?
And thanks to all who were involved in getting these grants together, and we're going to keep our fingers crossed.
Thank you, Amy. Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor Ketzer?
Yes.
No travel requests at this time. If you'd be indulged for a resolution to approve the request by Outside Art to paint the backside of the kiosk as discussed.
Yeah, so implement Rule 4. I would so move.
Moved by Counselor Armstrong, second by Counselor Ketzer. All in favor of implementing Rule 4?
Aye.
Opposed? All in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Aye.
Oops.
Does that have to be
We
No,
got a roll
I'm sorry,
call.
discussion, I'm sorry. Discussion on the motion itself?
Thank you, Amy, for everything. Downtown is looking beautiful.
Absolutely.
Thank you for letting us use my.
Let us know if we can help paint.
Does that need to be a roll call?
Yeah, it does.
Will, yeah. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Counselor Armstrong?
Yes.
Counselor Kelly?
Yes.
Counselor Dowdle?
Yes.
Counselor Ensel?
Yes.
Counselor Ketzer?
Yes.
Thank you,
Thank
Amy.
you.
Any new business or any other items for initial consideration tonight? Counselor Dowdle?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm waiting for number 10. Go ahead.
Okay. New business and council reports, Counselor Dowdle.
Yes, I was contacted by an individual who has actually returned to Plattsburgh, him and his wife, and there are other friends of theirs who are interested in volunteering downtown, pretty much on the scale that Councilor Casper had started. Plattsburgh is Beautiful, where we did plantings, weeding, spruce up, clean up, whatever you want to call it. And the question is, could this group, and I'll help with it, could we just go out and do this, or do we need permission? There's a couple spots they want to target. I mean, it's getting late in the year to do planting, but it's probably more or less a little cleanup at this time.
So if you ask a lawyer, you're going to get a lawyer's response.
Sure.
And
so we must need permission.
Previously, Sandra Geddes and I had been working together on MVP, a municipal volunteer program. And as I recall that, I had made my comments and that was in final form. Basically requires some waivers and general identification and steps so they don't act unilaterally, so there's some permission requested and discussion and communication. So as I recall, that was in final form. I can ask to work with Matt and see what we can dig up from her computer and hopefully lay it out, and that work should be done, which spells it all out.
Okay, and once that's found, then what do we do?
I don't recall the exact details, but it lays out, basic, simple, common sense requirements that we would want to have in place.
Did they ever come back to the council for a type of approval, resolution for?
Yeah, because it was authorizing a new program, so that would be a policy by the city, so it shouldn't take more than a few days to just gather it and then get it back to the council.
Okay.
Take a look at next week, perhaps?
Yeah, it's just a matter of getting into her computer, or I could probably I frankly have it drafts that she had sent to me, but I just don't recall her finalizing that, so we could just dig it
So
up again.
it would be good to have that municipal volunteer program just in place.
Yeah, that was the idea,
in the
so
event
it's
of
not, and then you
other-
don't have to deal with a specific request for a
Right,
specific
okay,
thing.
okay, good. And I know, Mike, at one time you had a committee that was meeting, maybe a couple of years ago. Volunteers indicated that there was a couple who were more than anxious to volunteer, and they could recruit volunteers, and I'm wondering if we could feed off that, or if you might have any information on, I think it was a husband and wife team that had returned to Plattsburgh and had experience organizing volunteers that you spoke on. If we could maybe dig up some of that information.
Gee, I wonder if there could be any.
I'll try.
Okay, all right, that's all I'm asking, yep.
I wonder if there's any
Because-
snow angels in there.
No, because this group's going back south in November. All right, so, but they're back, okay.
I'll try.
Okay, all right, see
Remember
if
who
you've got
that
something
was,
out
and
of
see if we
that.
can get those
Okay,
people involved.
all right.
Sure.
It's just a
Thank
good
you.
starting point,
Okay.
because I don't know if they were ever utilized for anything else, but, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other new business or councilor reports?
Well, I just wanted to share with Councilor Armstrong how happy I am that she's considering a plastic ban, particularly straws, and I would say ban it all. But
You can participate in the survey.
but we can take it one at a time if that's the way it turns out. But it's funny, but I opened up my copy of Fortune magazine this week, and there's an article in there called "The Last Straws," and it says the last straw is a problem polluter, but one easy to replace. The humble plastic drinking straws days are numbered. So Fortune magazine is kind of a conservative magazine.
Yeah.
And for them to say that, I think is significant.
It's kind of like a bellwether.
I'm going to read you just a couple of lines from it here. It says, in a move intended to cut back on waste, Starbucks has joined the growing number of companies eliminating plastic straws from its locations. By 2020, Starbucks says it will replace the 1 billion plastic straws it uses every year with recyclable strawless lids or straws made with an alternative materials like paper and compostable plastic. And it goes on to say, as you mentioned, in July, Seattle banned restaurants from using plastic straws and utensils. The ordinance is a reflection of a broader global movement to cut back on plastic usage as consumers become more aware of its environmental impact. particularly its role in polluting the world's oceans. Several other U.S. cities have already implemented similar bans, and I think your slideshow alluded to that too. It's an environmental trend that has gained traction quickly. Companies such as food service operator Bon Appetit Management and some others that were also in your slideshow banned plastic straws. And McDonald's is currently testing a non-plastic alternative. So it's an idea that's caught on, and I really thank Rory Fisher for bringing this to our attention first, and you for taking up the banner. And when that resolution comes on the agenda, I will be voting for.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Thank you.
So you recall when we were kids, didn't they have paper straws
Paper
back then?
straws.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of retro to go back to that now, huh?
I've got a stainless steel straw that I carry.
Unfortunately, the paper straws need to be wrapped in plastic.
Yeah, they collapse. I mean, seriously, there is a concern among the disabled community that that such a ban would impair them, because many of them do need straws in order to ingest liquids. So check out the link on the slideshow to the Seattle, Washington ordinance. And what is particularly interesting to me is how carefully they plan for the transition to the implementation of the law. Anyway.
BYOS.
Yes.
Any other new business or council reports? I'd like to add this evening, Chief Ritter will be participating in a talk up with the Plattsburgh School District. He's facilitating having special officers assigned, actually hired by the school district, facilitated through your office. But that's not the only thing he's helping us. We're in the process of interviewing our parking attendants right now, and his office been instrumental in helping that. He's right in the forefront of our desires to do community policing and working with Joe and the building inspector's office on that city helpline, that one-stop portal into the city to be guided to the right department, and a part of this effort to get the code enforcement and the city police working together. I think Councilor Dowdle, you had a question on one of those initiatives too. So both these individuals are working really hard on pulling all that together. Should have more to say on these items by next week, so thank you for your efforts.
Just a clarification, the school district will be hiring the officers?
Is it on a reimbursement basis, or there's no financial obligation to the city?
Right.
It is proposed that we would hire them, and the city would or the school district would reimburse us.
Okay, because I know the Malone district just initiated all that. Okay, good.
Any other additional reports or new business? Any additional public comments of any issue of mutual concern tonight?
My name's Chris Gillen. I just had a question in regards to the grant for the Saranac River Trail and the $280,000 that would be required to be paid. Outside of a temporary tax raise, how do you propose that we will pay for it? And then to touch on the on the plastic ban, maybe we could consider a smoking ban. I know a lot of people at Mayor's Cup this year were reporting about the overwhelming amount of smokers in the downtown area. So while we talk on the plastic straws and banning those, maybe we could look into a proposed downtown smoking ban, especially during family events like that, because not everyone's a smoker and there's a lot of young children around, and it's just something that I know the public, was had a lot of concern with. But back to the river trail, how do we propose we're going to pay for it outside of a temporary tax raise? Because I think that's a big concern. Councilor Kelly said it might not be a concern in the future. It may be a concern right now, but I can assure you people are quite dissatisfied when they hear the word tax raise in the city of Plattsburgh, and I'd like to hear just a few ideas how we might come up with that money. So, thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
We've begun discussions with DOT, who's administering that grant. I spoke with the deputy commissioner of the DOT yesterday. We'll follow up Monday, and then we'll follow up subsequently with a meeting of DOT and DEC and what other acronyms? ESD, DOS, all these various agencies that are either involved in the DRI or the Saranac River Trail or this new Empire Trail or the LRAP Waterfront Revitalization Program. We want them all to be coordinated, and if we can do that, then hopefully we can ensure that one grant or other will be able to pay for that $280,000. If they're not coordinated, you're right, it would end up being on the taxpayer dime, and I think there's grave and shared concern from the council on that. But we're very hopeful. We have every indication from the deputy commissioner that that's going to be possible. So it's just really a matter of getting all the people in the room at the same time and working together on this, and I'm much more confident after the last couple of weeks of discussion that will happen. But thank you.
And if I might, I want to commend you for, encouraging them to possibly oppose the grant. Like at the time, I know you catch a lot of heat, often, but I think that you have.
I do not.
This level at that time, so I just wanted to say thank you for that, because it's definitely something we can consider.
Thank you for that, Chris. And if I may interject, are we locked into 2 bridges?
For
that stretch of the Saranac River Trail? Can't we save money and just have one?
Well, the bridge to nowhere though. You got to get them back, right? It brings them from Pine Street over to the island and then back to the side, unfortunately. But what as
use the same bridge back and just make a loop.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Mike spoke last week about figuring out a way to get the cost down by looking at other suppliers, but then we're afraid that the higher steel tariffs now might reduce that savings. But I'm pretty confident that if we can get the Durkee Street project, the streetscape and riverfront money, the DRI, the SRT, and the Empire Trail all working together, then let's view it as a whole package of improvements we want to make on Saranac River Trail and the streetscapes, and a whole package of funds to do it. And that's how we hope we can do it at no cost to the taxpayer. Fair enough, Mr. Miller? Any other public comments at this time? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Councilor Dowell, second by Councilor Kelly. Roll call, please.
Councilor Armstrong?
Yes.
Councilor Kelly?
Yes.
Councilor Dowell?
Yes.
Councilor Ansel?
Yes.
Councilor Cresci?
Yes.
Thanks everybody for coming tonight. Thanks for your work.
Gotta get that appointment set up, open gutter and do all that other stuff too, so. Josh and I will meet next week and get it figured out.
You might want to talk to Eva too. Eva's going to be all over that kind of stuff. Sure.
Oh, okay.
She's going to be on holiday for 2 weeks. Okay, arranged for.
But I mean, you've got to get it together so that you have the information.
Abstracts. The other 5 are just opinions. So I think it was worth
Thanks.
all right, in the back, some alternative opinions from other cat groups that think that it's cruel to live outside, and from
I know you have a
biologists
press conference
and
today, but I have a few
professionals
more
in
questions for you.
Association of Navy Veterinarians.
Maybe more
First of all, I
Right,
know
and
that
then
we
there's
were
also
talking
some
about the
very
intersection
human
earlier
health
today.
risks.
Do you have any sort of
These alley-cat alleys
expectation of
has
how much the
hundreds
intersection
of
would
millions of
cost?
dollars invested in this.
We're hoping and expecting it should be almost costless.